All right, we are back with another one. No Khaled, Conscious Approach podcast. Wanted to talk about this situation. Well, I guess they did it the beef, but it was a bit of an ongoing situation with two guys who we kind of came up listening to, Cam'ron and Mase, and you felt as though it was reflective of a greater cultural thing going
Right.
on
Right.
in hip hop.
hmm
What did you mean by that?
Well, I mean, because Cam and Mace, they come from I guess our era.
Yeah, you could probably say that. Yeah.
Yeah, when we were in middle, high school, finding ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
and we're listening to music and understanding the words. So those guys were big
Yeah.
in our time,
Mm-hmm.
and I just wanted to shed light on the the act of hip hop, the acting
Mm-hmm.
going on in it, the cultural directions that these artists are steering the youth in.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was coming up, and I'm watching Mace, and "Been Around the World" remix was one of my favorite songs
Mm-hmm.
at the time. And just but watching the video, they're in jets. They're popping bottles.
Speedboats.
So there's all kinds
Yeah.
of wild stuff happening.
Yeah.
And as a adolescent who has no grip on reality yet, I'm watching this stuff, and I guess there's nothing wrong to be inspired, but I wanted to ball hard. It's a difference between being successful and being a baller. Now, everybody loves to make the comparison that, oh, hey, Bill Gates, he just walks around wearing anything.
Mhm.
He drives whatever. He's not doing all this other stuff.
Mhm.
So when I'm watching this stuff as a young and impressionable kid, as I'm trying to understand life, I'm watching people who are quote unquote successful do all these outlandish things. And as a child, I see these things as priority number one. You're not going to get the woman if you drive the hatchback.
Yeah.
You're not going to be, Mr. Cool, Mr. Player if you're not low key disrespecting women or just flat out disrespecting them. There was a lot of things going on in that era of hyper masculinity, and one thing that we are witnessing, even with this residual beef that they've got after all of these years,
Mhm.
they're from the era of hyper masculinity.
Yeah.
And so they believe that the tougher you sound on a song is the tougher you are in life.
Yeah.
And so, but coming from that area of hyper masculinity, there had to be a give. There were a lot of kids who were watching this and say, hey, those guys aren't really thugs, gangsters, and stuff like that. I live in a house with mom and dad who's taking care of everything. I want for nothing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not in the streets banging and stuff like that. So there was a natural rebellion. And then on top of that, well, there was a natural rebellion from the previous macho culture. And then, and from the rebellion was look, I ain't wearing all them baggy clothes.
Yeah.
I'm wearing something tight.
Yeah.
And then so it started off with the gear. It's, and then the clothes and this and that, and then, behaviors and so on and so forth, to the point where it's no longer hyper masculinity. It's hyper femininity in men. You know what I'm saying? And so it's just went from one extreme to the next, extreme to the next. But they're both forms of homosexuality. And hyper masculinity, not calling Mason them gay or nothing like that.
Right.
But the cultural context of being overly tough, overly aggressive, never showing any of that, that's gay.
Mm-hmm.
You are now in the class of homosexuals. And that's why that whole homo thug thing came from. That guy that's in prison, big fella, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
That big guy
Yeah.
who's still gay.
Yeah.
He'll whoop your ass.
Yeah.
But he's hyper masculine.
Yeah.
Every time, put your hand over here. Blah, blah, that's hyper.
Yeah.
And so, but he can still be gay. And so what we witnessed, the sagging of the pants, when we would hear that from prison culture and stuff like that, oh, that's homosexual, I was like, nah, I'm going to still sag my pants. That doesn't mean that I'm showing my ass. But the culture said that, hey, wear these.
Mm-hmm.
I wore it.
Mm-hmm.
And I still low-key still sag.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't mean that I'm gay, but it's a gay act.
Right.
It's gay.
Right.
And it started from prison,
mm-hmm.
from the hyper masculinity, the gay stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so we got introduced to prison culture as a youth. And so, like I said, as the transition started to go on, these kids have went from one extreme to the next, from selling the drugs to doing them, from wearing baggy pants to wearing tight pants. It's a transition that I did. Once the transition started to happen, I was like, I'm old.
Yeah.
I'm not any of this stuff. I'm an old man. I'm an old head because I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
And so, but as a child, I understand when you're in those moments, it's everything to you. So those skinnies, those this, that's everything to him. And if he don't have that combo pack, he not fresh. And the females ain't gonna check for him. And so these kids are doing everything that they need to do to be cool, just like we did.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but again, but now that we've removed ourselves from this,
mm-hmm.
Contextually, we can now see that, hey man, there's agendas going on in hip hop, whether intentional or unintentional. I believe it's intentional, but there's agendas in hip hop in order to control how the youth is going to behave when they're 25, 30. And because now, if you've been listening to Zanny Head from the age 10 to 17, you've got 7 years of hardcore conditioning. As soon as you hit the block at 19, 20 years old, and you got access to drugs, you popping Zans, you're doing whatever it takes.
That stuff is already heavily infused
mm-hmm.
right now.
Mm-hmm.
That isn't even, it's not going to take another 5 years for that to sort of actualize itself mm-hmm. in society. It's already here.
Right.
I mean, I work with a bunch of dudes younger than me who listen to all of that stuff, and they emulate all of the behavior.
Right.
I just think that the word that you used was perfect. It was transition. Because when we were younger, growing up listening to music, we were 1,000% susceptible to all of his influences, just like these kids now are. The only difference is they were glorifying selling dope and killing people, right? So they were glorifying the violence and the drug selling and all of that kind of stuff. Now these rappers are glorifying pill popping,
right?
And they're making it popular and fun. They're making it positive to, be a pill popper, to pop Xanax and to do all of this other stuff. Percocet, Molly Percocet,
right.
where there's a glorification of the pill popping culture, and it's completely here. Mm-hmm. It has arrived. It ain't gonna take a couple years. Mm-hmm. It is here. Mm-hmm. So you know what I'm saying. The only issue, what I do think is a keen thing to look at is before you were at the mercy of the music, but if you came from a stable background in which you had not necessarily a mom and a dad, but if you had consistent authority figures who were in your presence on a day-to-day basis growing up, who could teach you how to differentiate right from wrong and to sort of impress upon you the value of having good judgment, you can make it out of that and still be a well-rounded individual, despite the fact that you were always listening to that.
Right.
That's why we're here.
Right.
I did all of that. I listened to all of the music, played all of the Mortal Kombats. That was me. Mm-hmm. But here I am, and I'm not doing any of that stuff. Right. You know what I'm saying? I think the difference, though, now is a lot of these kids, and we talk about the mainstream commodification of black culture. Mm-hmm. So what is black culture is hip-hop and rap music, because that's what we have allowed. Mm-hmm. And since we have allowed it, that's what persists in society. And so people who don't necessarily have that much of an affiliation with black culture are going to glean what it means to be black and black culture from this music form. Mm-hmm. That's our fault. Mm-hmm. We as black people have allowed that. Mm-hmm. Nevertheless, because there's a commodification of black culture, it's seeped its way into those suburban neighborhoods, mm-hmm. Which aren't all white people. Mm-hmm. We're talking about black kids too, who have those consistent authority figures in their lives on a day-to-day basis to teach them right from wrong. But the music has become so pervasive because those who are putting it out there come from those backgrounds as well. So the people who are making these music, these pill poppers, they have a mom and dad, and they're still doing it.
Right.
So these kids now listening to this stuff, even if they have those people at home to tell them right from wrong, they're going to kind of subconsciously say, I'm still going to do what they're doing, even though I have these authority figures in my life, because the music that I'm listening to, they have the authority figures too, and they're still doing it, so now I can still do it too. Whereas for us, we have the authority figures saying you can listen to it, but don't emulate that shit. Mm-hmm. That is no longer a factor. Right. Because now these kids are emulating that shit anyway, even if the authority figures are there. Right. Weed, fuck out of here. Right. That is now a gateway. Right. Because it's nothing for the weed. We're talking about people, okay, and I know this from personal experience, who are listening to people like Future and trying to get parties together so that they can do Adderall. Yeah. ADHD drugs. So now, because of the culture that we have allowed to persist, because we allow them to come in and infiltrate and make commodities out of us for the rest of Middle America, this is the environment that you create. Mm-hmm. So now we have a generation of people out here talking about, we're gonna pop this Adderall because that's our fun now. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's crazy, but I think you're right. I think what you're saying is true.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, the pill popping culture, that's also a dynamic. But I'll just share you with this. It's just that when I was watching Wayne in his heyday, when he's just going hard on every song, he's a pill popping animal. You know what I'm saying? You can just see it. Honestly, I didn't even know if he was gonna make it to 30. Yeah. He was living so rock star. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So he was going so hard, but he was still in shape. He was still out there touring, doing his thing, and I was like, hey man, and this is just me looking. Mm-hmm. I said, hey man, it's not that bad. You can do this. You could be drinking every night, popping pills, doing all kinds of drugs. Your body can endure a lot. This is what I'm thinking as a youngster.
I get you.
So I'm watching a champion be Superman out there. And I'm like, oh, whoa. So I'm not the 13-year-old kid watching Uzi right now. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Or watching Future. If you still believe Future does that stuff. If you're a kid and you still believe Future does any of those drugs.
I'm telling you they do.
If you believe he does any of those drugs, that Breakfast Club interview should have been the whole thing. He was so clean and coherent. It was ridiculous.
I'm telling you they do. They believe it.
If they watch this and they body too. I'm popping perks like M&Ms. And niggas like, oh yeah, I'm on it. Party pack, I'm leveling up. It's like, bruh, like, chill. You know what I'm saying? So when you watch a Kodak who watched Wayne, who watched Gucci, who watched all these guys, you know what I'm saying? Because, Lil Kodak, he ahead of his time. Mm-hmm. But he was watching all those guys. And so as soon as people chose him to be a rapper, he didn't know how to differentiate anything. Mm-hmm. He was still the street nigga. He still is. And he was just living it for real. Mm-hmm. These kids nowadays are doing it for real. And the thing is that those other people before in the past were just actors. And we didn't know that. Mm-hmm. And so the scary part of all this is that people are doing what they're saying in their raps. And that's a scary thing. Because at first, it was just a thing where it's like, oh, you just popping shit. You just said that because it rhymed. Yeah. But these guys are really OD. Yeah. So the thing is with hip hop culture and then all of this to tie back into Mase and all that stuff, it's just that again what I've learned through hip hop, through all of these things, beefs and all that stuff included, is that the audience, if they don't remove themselves from this WWE type of entertainment, they will believe that, mankind is actually out there. Even though he was getting hurt, that mankind is actually, mankind. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And then when he's in the store, he's still that guy.
Yeah, he's still mankind.
Yeah, he's still that guy.
He's mankind in Best Buy.
Exactly. You know what I'm saying? What you doing? Just, you expecting to fall through a table or something. You know what I'm saying? These guys are actors. You know what I'm saying? And so, you know, the main ones.
Mm-hmm.
And so, hindsight, when you look back at Mace's career, even anybody say, "Oh, Murder Mace, he was Murder Mace. He was really..." Listen,
No.
he's an actor.
Yeah.
You sound with Diddy Puff, you're an actor. You know what I'm saying? Cam, everybody know Cam's story. He was hooping, he was doing all type of everything.
Yeah.
He was just a talented guy.
Yeah.
And so he just made it because he's just fucking talented.
Yeah.
But he's not. He might have been in the streets, but he's no Killer Cam.
Mm-hmm.
These niggas don't have bodies. The niggas who got bodies are in jail.
Or dead. Yeah.
So, all of this old stuff we love to give people credit for. The old narratives that we now know that's fake.
Mm-hmm.
20 years ago, you told me you sold dope? Really? You was really out here trapping like that? Oh, yeah. Yeah. What? I don't think so. So, did you sell something out your car? Yes. But were you big kingpin of New York, of Queens? No. So, I just said is this, man. As far as watching hip hop and the entertainment of it all, it's just separate yourself from it. And it's just when you watch and the best way to do it is when your favorite artist is saying something. And if you believe anything that comes out of his mouth, you're fucking up. If he's being grandiose. And but if he's just saying some regular everyday shit that he was in his car and he jumped in that car and he was in that car and hey man, whatever. Yeah. But you know, but this whole thing that I've realized in society is that hip hop is you know, people can say whatever they want, but I was there. And I was controlled. And I broke out of the matrix. Yeah. You know, and so my whole thing is to the youth. It's just that when you're watching all of these shenanigans, you know, 13, 14, 15-year-olds, you out here watching this stuff, and, you know, you think that it's, I mean, opioids is one thing. Yeah. That's a serious thing. But, yeah, man, but just pay attention to what fads has been going on since you've been paying attention. You know, because things change in every year now. Yeah. So if they're making you wear something next year that you're not comfortable with, that's part of the agenda. Yeah. You know, we're not the designers.
And they'll be wearing something different than that 2-3 years from now anyway.
Right.
You know, it's not going to stay the same. Yeah. It's just, I don't know. It's crazy. But, yeah, I broke out of the Matrix too. But, you know, these days when I talk like that, you know, people just look at me like I'm crazy.
You're old head.
Yeah, yeah.
You're somewhere else. Yeah. What do you mean you don't believe what so-and-so says? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I started to notice that it was really being ingrained when it became apparent to me that I was looking like the one who was like a social outcast because I wasn't into that stuff. Right. That was when I realized, oh, it's become that pervasive. Yes. That I am now, according to you guys, in the minority because I'm not popping the pills and doing all of that crazy stuff that y'all are doing. Right. And getting the blonde mohawk haircuts and doing all of this stuff that you guys just see on TV and so you emulate. Because you live in a world of social media.
One more thing, man. We were just talking about Beckham. But just like, for instance, the Beckham cut. And once he did that, football players. Yeah. Not anybody else. Yeah. You see people in the street doing the Beckham. You're like, damn, bro, you doing the Beckham. What's wrong with you? Yeah. But football players specifically, receivers specifically. Yeah. And so you'll see that people literally emulate their champions. And so... I remember when Dion was doing his thing, I needed everything. When I played football, I needed the face mask. I wanted to wear 21. No, you can't wear 21. You playing offensive line. I was like, I need 21. I had a full box. I ain't had no damn. I forgot what they call his thing. I just was not looking like Deion Sanders. I'm pissed. But the whole thing is, when we're so young, the impressionableness is intense. It is everything to you. You are only going to do what you're seeing other people doing. Yeah. And so now you can see why who this and a little that gets the deal. You can see why, because they will say whatever it takes to get on the radio. They'll make a song about popping all kinds of opioids, all kinds of depression stuff, all of that. And that's what gets on the radio. Yeah. Yeah. So, so again, man, it has nothing about who's hot or who's this. The commercialization of hip hop is at an all-time high, and the art has gotten lost. Yeah. somewhere in the mix.
Yeah.
So yeah, man. This you know, again, just make sure that you're on your P's and Q's.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, we'll leave it at that, man. Stay on your P's and Q's. Don't believe everything you see on your IG and on your TV, if people even still watch TV anymore. Either way, follow us on all the usual channels. YouTube, we are there. On the website, consciousapproach.com. Dogon_SS on IG. JV Wins on IG. Keep it logical. We will see you on the flip side. We out.